Okay, it's 5:30. We'll call the public hearing of the Norwalk WPCA to order regarding the proposed sewer use charges to be effective on July 1, 2020, July 1, 2023. The public hearing is open. Are there any members of the public present to speak?
There are none.
There are none. I know we're going to discuss this in the meeting. Does anybody have any other comments to bring forward during the public hearing, commissioners or otherwise? No. What would we say is a respectable amount of time? 2 minutes? Leave the public hearing open. Okay, it's 5:32. Is everybody okay with closing the public hearing? Okay, we don't need a motion for that. We won't take action in the public hearing, but it's 5:32. No members of the public came forth to speak. I won't bother reading this into the record. I'm sure it'll be discussed and recorded for the record in the regular meeting portion. So we'll consider the public hearing closed right now and call to order the regular meeting of the Norwalk WPCA at 5:32 p.m. on February 21st, 2023. Let's move on to item number 3. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the WPCA meeting held on January 17th?
So moved.
Mr. Igneri, any comments, corrections, revisions, proposed revisions? No. Okay, we'll call the question. All in favor of approval of the meeting minutes, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so it's Manella, Ostafine, Igneri, Smith, Bovee, Constantine. Mr. Meek, are you abstaining?
Abstain.
Okay, Mr. Meek is abstaining. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 in favor with 1 abstention. The motion passes. Item number 4. Is there a motion to approve the sewer user rates to be effective July 1, 2023?
So moved.
And Mr. Igneri gets it again. Is there any presentation from staff or any further explanation?
No presentation, just a copy of the proposed rates was included as item 1 with the public hearing, just for reference.
Okay. Are there any questions of staff? No. I have one minor question. I did look these over. I noticed that they all seem to be a consistent percentage increase, except for the in-law apartment. Is that right?
Yeah, they all look like 3.5%, 3.6%, except for that one.
So the in-law apartment is equal to a
Yeah.
half of a residential unit.
Okay, yeah, but it seems like everything else was, as Chris said, and as Manella said, 3.67%. And that one seemed to be under. Is there any reason or?
We just take the 396 and divide by 2.
Oh, so it's always been proportional
50%.
to whatever I got you.
Correct.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other questions, comments? No? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Manella, Ostfine, Igneri, Constantine, Bovee, Smith, Meeks. That's unanimous. That passes unanimously. Thank you. It is 5:35. Is there a motion to approve the proposed FY 23-24 operating budget? Somebody, okay. Mrs. Smith's hand went up first. Give that to her. Is there commentary or presentation from staff?
No formal presentation. This is just continuation from the previous board meeting where we discussed the financial model and finalize the operating budget for everybody's review and approval.
Okay, does anybody have any questions of staff regarding the proposed operating budget for 23-24? No. All in favor? Aye. Manella, Ostafine, Igneri, Constantine, Bovee, Smith, Meeks. That passes unanimously. Is there a motion to approve the proposed FY 23-24 capital budget? Mr. Bovee. Okay, again, any presentation from staff, any further explanations?
No, this is just a copy of the capital budget that we presented to the board late last year through the capital process, and we always include in this board package as to close out the action with the operating and the rates.
Okay, any questions on the capital budget? Any further explanation necessary? No.
An agreeable group?
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Manella, Ostafine, Igneri, Constantine, Bovee, Smith, Meeks. That passes unanimously. And it is 5:37. Is there a motion to authorize expenditures of $78,400 to Ty and Bond as part of the City of Norwalk's proposed second annual extension, which was approved on February 23 by the Public Works Committee and the Common Council? Mr. Smith's hand is up. There is a motion. Any presentation from staff on item number 7?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, this is a DPW project that WPCA is participating with, since there is sanitary sewer improvement, so there is a cost share. And this is for resident engineering services, Ty and Bond, to make sure somebody is out there during construction.
Any questions of staff regarding this item? No questions. So we're doing this because we're doing this for the city because somehow there's a sewer involved, right?
Correct. There's about $2.5 million worth of sanitary sewer work that's part of this DPW project.
Yeah, and this has been on previous agendas. Now I recognize it.
Correct.
No other questions? No other commentary?
I
Mrs.
can
Smith?
just add this, had full common council support in the meeting last week rather.
What's the overall inspection budget authorization to Ty and Bond? So like as a percentage, what's the sewer compared to the rest of it?
So I can answer that. We have a contract with Ty and Bond, so what we do is they are overseeing a couple of projects. But DPW, they oversee our paving and some of the Dreamy Hollow project. So what we do is based on what they're seeing at Dreamy Hollow, we do the percentage of the costs associated to the sewer replacement. And then we charge that to WPCA. I would say it's about maybe less than 30% on the Dreamy Hollow portion.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Manila Ospina, Constantine Bovee Smith, Meeks. That passes unanimously. It is 5:40. Contract operation reports.
Okay. Thank you, Darren. Good evening, everybody.
Almost Marcin.
Hi. We had some challenges in the month of January, as we often do in January with the cold weather. First and foremost, we had a significant rain event that started on January 25th and went into January 26th. It was a unique event from our experience here. It was very intense and very short duration. We got about 1.5 inches of rain in just a little over a 2-hour period. So it was very concentrated, and it did result in the plant flows getting to a level where we had to activate the 002 outfall. And we discharged for approximately 2 hours and 40 minutes on the evening of the 25th and into the early morning of the 26th. All the sampling, analysis, and procedures were followed, and we were able to conduct all the necessary monitoring and reporting that was required as part of it. A couple weeks prior to that, we had a failure of both of our gravity thickeners here at the plant. And the gravity thickeners are tanks that are designed to thicken the primary sludge, and we pump a dilute sludge out of the clarifiers, and then we further concentrate it for processing in these gravity thickeners. And we experienced the failure of not one but both of them weeks prior to this event, and it required us to have to pump these tanks out and basically move around some of the solids in the plant to complete these repairs. Unfortunately, while we were in the process of doing that, we had this storm event hit, and as it hit, it resulted in some degradation of the 001 effluent when we were putting 30 MGD through the plant. So we had a short period where we had degraded effluent. Because of the way we have to sample in the SOP, we had to sample just for that window of time. And as a result, those numbers exceeded our daily limits for BOD, TSS, and enterococci. And then to add on problem, we had a monthly violation for TSS, because even though we had excellent compliance leading up to this one instance, and then the following day all our tests were back within permit limits, number was high enough that we ended up with the average being over the monthly limit too. So we had, it was a challenging period on the 25th and 26th. A lot of things went right. Our folks did do a lot of stuff good. There was a lot of rain in the area, so the impact on the harbor was minimal. And as I mentioned, everything was back in line the next day. Since then, we've been working diligently with the city and with our teams to come up with an action plan to repair both of these gravity thickeners. And we believe we have a short-term and long-term plan. The short-term plan is just some steel repairs. These tanks and the mechanisms in them are very old, and they basically just corroded away. So we're going to do some structural repairs to them, if you will, to get them back up and running. And then we'll work with the city on a longer term plan to change out and replace the mechanisms in the tanks, which will take a little bit longer. So never good news to report, but we, as always, want to be 100% transparent with you. We want to learn from the challenges that we had there. We had a great meeting, again, with the city today to talk about ways to protect the plant if this were to happen in the future. And we've got some really good ideas working. So I don't know if anyone has any questions on that. A little bit complex, but if you do, I'm happy to answer them. Or if you have thoughts afterwards, I'm always available to talk as well.
Are we talking contract or DEEP exceedance?
So we're talking both. Our contract limits are much more stringent than our DEEP limits. So yeah, so they were both a contract exceedance and a DEEP permit exceedance.
So we did a bypass report to the DEP. I
We
assume
did.
that's- Okay,
Yeah, there's a 2-day report that we put in initially, which we report
Okay.
immediately. There's a 5-day report that we follow up with more detailed information. And then the DMR, which is due the following month on the 15th, which we just submitted, we give them all the data on the lab test and further discussion. So
great,
yeah, we've done everything we need to do with DEP as far as reporting.
thanks.
So that's the bad news, unfortunately, and like I said, we always try to learn from our challenges here, and the next month we'll have an update on some of the ideas we've come up with from our analysis. So that's the rough part of the month. The good part of the month is we were able to complete the Orchard Street project, so it's very exciting. And Delene, if I could share the screen, I have a few pictures to show the group if they're interested. It'll only take a couple seconds.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So do you see a map on your screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the Orchard Street lining project, and it was basically 3 parts to this project that we did. And we just wanted to show you the overview of what was actually done. The map you're looking at, you can see that small pink or purple line was the first liner, and there was 3 sections that we put in. But in order to put these liners in, an extensive amount of bypass pumping was required. In fact, the bypass pumping was the most complicated part of this job, not the lining itself. So the yellow line, you could see where we bypassed all the way up from the front part of Orchard Street, all the way down to Quincy, and then around the corner and down into a manhole that was installed on Quincy. And now that bypass pumping was in place to put this first piece of liner in. There was a lot of logistics and coordination required because we have a housing complex that runs around Orchard, as you folks know. So we had to work closely with the homeowners and the property managers. And we had septage trucks actually clearing out their laterals as we were conducting this bypass and this lining operation. So that was the first liner. Liner number 2, did that switch over? Do you see a map with an orange line now?
Correct.
So this is the second liner, this orange line here, and it continued down Orchard Street past Quincy, all the way down to Jennings Place. For this job, we actually had additional bypass pumping that was conducted from the original piece, and then a secondary part of bypass set up down at Jennings to put the second liner in. And then the third liner is actually all the way down on the end, and this is where it was actually into Jennings Place, and where we had to put the liner actually through their property. So all 3 liners went in. Everything went according to schedule. We didn't hear any complaints or any feedback, negative feedback from anybody or any of the residents. So we were really happy with how smoothly this job went, and great job to the team, Ralph, Nelia, all of our folks, the city. And it was just a great coordination effort, and it was nice to get this job finally done. So one other thing I can show you is these are a few pictures. So this is, like I mentioned, the bypass connections were very involved, and they actually involved excavation. So this is one of the bypass lines being installed to a manhole. There's another bypass line. And this is the actual curing operation. So when they put the liner into the sewer, they actually heat treat it with steam and cure it in place with high temperature steam. So what you're seeing here is the curing of the liner in one of the manholes. So another bypass connection, another bypass. And then this is sort of a street-wide vision of the curing in place and the steaming. And lastly, you can see, if you look at the bottom of that manhole, you can see there's a nice new liner coming in and out of it at both sides. So All those areas of concern that we had on Orchard Street, all that old pipe that we were worried about is now got a beautiful new cast in place liner on it. So that is, that's the picture show. And if anyone has any questions on that, we'd be happy to answer them.
The question about the failure of those two tanks.
Yes.
So it seems strange that both would have, you get a failure of two devices simultaneously. You know, just, I know you imply there's corrosion and failure, metal failure, but it just seems strange that you have two devices fail simultaneously.
Yeah, it does. And I guess they were actually failed in sequence. So we have one that we normally run and we have one that's offline and available as a standby. And when the one that failed, we attempted to switch over to the one that was a standby, which isn't used that much. It's in a lesser state of good condition. And we did find that it wasn't able to be used. So I don't know if that explains it a little bit better.
And are they mechanisms that?
So what they are, yeah, they're mechanical mechanisms. Picture a concrete round tank with a hole in the bottom of it. And then what there is a center drive and a rake structure that goes around and scrapes the bottom of the tank and scrapes the walls. And it's built of just a bunch of steel components that are welded together with squeegees. And it's all, it hangs from two large I-beams so that it doesn't bind up on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
What happened with the failure is the large I-beams have begun to deflect, and they've deflected so far now that the device hit the bottom of the tank and has gotten bound up. So we need to jack the whole tank back up. This is the short-term repair that I was talking about. Jack that device back up, put some new structural I-beams in it so that it doesn't sit on the bottom of the tank. But you're correct in your suggestion. It is all mechanical and it's a very corrosive environment. And there's H2S and it's a sludge tank, so it's not so amenable for mechanical components.
And is there a time frame for this initial fix?
Yeah, we had our vendor in last Friday, and he's just finalizing the plans for us this week, and we're hopeful to have a plan finalized this week. And he's ready to begin the work, but unfortunately, like everything in the world, steel is a challenge. So we're hopeful we'll be able to find these materials. It's only two I-beams, which is pretty basic steel stock, and we don't really need anything custom manufactured for us. So we're optimistic that we'll be able to get those parts in the next few weeks. But we'll certainly let, working closely with the city, we'll let them know what the schedule is, and we can let everybody else know too. Certainly by next month, we should have, I would hope the repairs will be done by next month. Would be my guess.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Smith has a question.
Just a follow-up question on that. Do you foresee the capital funds being available in, what is proposed for next year that we just passed that still has a process of approval to go through? Or is that something that you think might require special appropriations to cover those costs?
I think it's probably a better question for Ralph and the team. The preliminary estimates are not astronomical. I think we're in the less than $100,000 range for the short-term improvements, and then we're looking like it's in the 250 to 300 to 400 range for new equipment too. So I don't think it was specifically earmarked in any of the capital budgets, but it's not, it's not going to be millions and millions of dollars.
Okay, not so bad. Thanks.
Okay, well, that's all I have. If anyone has any questions, as always, we're always here and happy to answer.
One small question. You mentioned before earlier 001 and 002 outfalls. I assume Ann Street doesn't have a name, and it sounded like the storm was pretty intense. Was Ann Street activated?
No, it wasn't.
So we avoided that.
Yeah, and there were no reported SSOs in the system either. We didn't have any manholes overflowing or anything like that. All came to the plant.
Great. Any other questions? I guess number 9 is you, Ralph.
Correct.
Mr. Cole?
Included in the package is the typical munis report. Anybody has any questions? If not, the next item on discussion on WPCA engineering projects, we kept it light this month just because of the public hearing. Plus with winter, not too much construction wise is going on. It's been a little slower. But we did meet on the 14th of February, brief meeting with Arcadis, Veolia and WPCA staff to go over several projects that are ongoing. One of is a facility plan update. They had questions for the Veolia team about some of the process data. And they actually met afterwards as well. Their key folks, along with Arcadis process gurus, to understand some of the data and continue to work on the facility plan. So Arcadis, the intent is to have a draft sometime by the end of April for the team to review and comment back. And then final submission is due June 30th of 2023 to the state. And then item C, sewer bills and appeals to date is $39,693. And there's no information copies.
Any other questions? Regards to Ralph's report. Any other questions on anything on this agenda or not on this agenda?
Yeah,
Mr. Meeks?
I have a question. I know we're ways off, but with 50 million for the collection system, what kind of, is there any kind of ballpark guesstimate on what the plant itself is going to cost? I know you said it last I was here a long time ago, it said it was going to take quite a while to put the plans together, but is there any kind of high level thing on the horizon? Not that I'm holding you to it, but just a guesstimate.
Mr. Meek, we do have a placeholder on our capital forecast that we use on the model also as $50 million. We're gonna have, we're gonna confirm that number close to June, but that's the placeholder and that's what we base all the financial model on. And hopefully, in a year from now, when we run again the model, we're gonna have a more closer number to what we'll be expecting to come.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Anything else? Anybody else? 5:57 PM. Is there a motion to adjourn? Mr. Igneri, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
By hands, it's unanimous. Our next meeting is March 20th, 2023. I'll see you all then.
Thank you so
Thanks for
much.
showing up.
Good night.
Good night.
Good
night.